This is the recording for HSC Option 2. We're up to the third key idea. How does the mass media contribute to people's understanding, values and beliefs about sport? And this recording is going to be focusing on the second dot point on the student learn about section, deconstructing media messages, image and amount of coverage. I'm going to start this recording off by giving a bit of an overall summary of the actual dot point itself. What's critical to understand in terms of the media and sport is that the messages that the media shows, the images that they portray, and the amount of coverage that they give to certain sport is all about maximising financial returns for the media company itself. Now, the way that media companies or outlets make money is by selling advertising space, and they receive more in advertising due to the amount of people who are watching it on TV or the amount of people who are reading their newspaper. Now, what they will do, they will show messages, images, and show coverage to different sports based simply on the fact of maximising their financial return. So what happens as a result of that is sometimes the messages aren't always 100% accurate that are portrayed in the media, and certainly the coverage given to different sports is all about maximising financial return for the media company itself. So in relation to the photo that's on the screen here, the sport of basketball suffers in this country because the media believes that basketball is not a popular sport in this country and therefore unlikely for them to be able to make much financial revenue, and therefore other sports such as NRL and cricket and AFL dominate the landscape. So the first dash point we have here is highlighted in red up at the top, differences in coverage for different sports across various print and electronic media. Now there are three sports that dominate this country in relation to media. That is AFL, rugby league, and in the summer months, cricket. Now if you follow those three sports, you are spoilt for choice. An example of this is rugby league, where every weekend 8 matches are televised every weekend on either free-to-air, Channel 9 or Foxtel. As well as the 8 games that they show, there is a wide range of different type of programs that are generally shown midweek that accompany the live game. So shows such as the Footy Show or Sterlo on Fox Sports are popular shows on the media which simply talk about the game itself rather than showing any live action. Now, because those three sports dominate, that just means naturally that there are going to be a range of sports that suffer. And two of those sports are hockey and basketball. Now, in terms of playing numbers, hockey and basketball have pretty impressive participation rates, particularly basketball. It has higher participation rates in this country than the sport of rugby league, and yet both of those sports only receive minimal TV coverage. So hockey, for example, the only time you'll only pretty much ever see hockey on TV is when the Australian team is playing in major international tournaments such as the Olympics. And as for basketball, they generally only receive highlight packages of some games. So the NBA has a national competition, and that is really struggling big time to get any sort of credible media coverage. And many teams have in fact gone broke in the last few years, and that's a direct result of lack of media coverage for their sport. So there are implications if sports do get media coverage or they don't get media coverage. Now, one of the difficulties they have if they receive, such as basketball, who receive little media coverage, is the difficulty you have in obtaining sponsorship. So sports such as rugby league, for example, they have very little trouble in gaining sponsorship because their product is continually in the face of consumers. So Telstra, for example, are the major sponsor of the NRL. They've had to pay a multi-million-dollar contract to obtain the naming rights, and Telstra are willing to pay that money because of the fact that, as I said before, 8 games are shown every weekend, which is putting the name Telstra firmly in the face of people who view sport. One of the groups who certainly suffer is female sport. A recent survey reported that male sports receive 9 times the coverage of women, which is an astounding figure when you look at the participation rates of sport in this country, which are almost 50-50. This leads to many implications as in terms of sponsorship for female athletes, where they struggle because their sport is not actually in the media, that they struggle big time to gain any sort of credible sponsorship. Now, the language used to describe sport is another interesting factor. When it comes to female sport, the language used is very different to the language that's used for male sport. And some of the headlines you'll see in a newspaper when it comes to male sports is examples on the screen there, such as state of origin war or dogs ready for battle. While when it comes to female sport, it's often their looks or their rather than their athletic abilities that's focused on. So headlines you may see when it comes to female is something like along the lines of babes in the water or glamour on the court. And a lot of the images you'll see, such as the one of Stephanie Rice here, will be shots of them out of their athletic endeavour and more of a glamour type shot. So this is Stephanie Rice, who's a famous swimmer, and this is typical of the sort of shot that you'll see of Stephanie when it comes to the media. So as I said, the images are also, as opposed to the language, are also completely different. When it comes to male and female images that are represented in the media, this is the type of thing that you'll see. Former number one tennis player Maria Sharapova, you'll often see her in this sort of pose, and this is generally how you'll see the number one male player or former number one male player Roger Federer. So they're more action shots as opposed to the female, which again focuses on the glamour type shot. The next dash point is the emergence of extreme sports as entertainment. And the example that the syllabus gives is big wave surfing. Just a bit of a definition of what typifies extreme sports is a sport or activity with a high element of risk. And some examples are rock climbing on the previous slide here, and this craze, which is certainly taking off a little bit around the world now, wingsuit flying it's called. You have the X Games, Robbie Madison, who's an Australian who every year on New Year's Eve performs death-defying stunts for his sponsor Red Bull. As I said before, you've got X Games indoor sort of motocross BMX type events, and also X Games Winter, which is also quite a new and exciting type of sport that's just burst onto the scene recently. Now, some of the characteristics of these types of sports are as follows. As I said with the definition before, they are sports with a high element of risk. That means that the person who is watching the sport is often watching because they perceive that there is a high element of risk and that the athlete has a pretty serious chance of getting injured. These athletes are continually pushing the boundaries of what can be expected and what is possible. They are sports that are extremely popular with young males, and young males are known as being the risk takers and enjoy watching others take risks. There's also a very close link with sponsorship, and particularly in the theme of extreme sports, Red Bull, the sport energy drink company, is a major sponsor of extreme sports.